Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm Nick McDaniel. He's Myron Fancher. How the heck are you, buddy?
Cold. One word answer, cold. Coming to you from the frozen tundra of Atlanta. I just cut a tauntaun open and I'm crawling inside it while Nick gives the links to where to find us.
Man, look, it is freezing. It is absolutely now luckily I have the thermostat set to a balmy 68 degrees down here in the basement, so it's not too bad. But outside, man, I mean, it's a little rough. We were talking about on the other show yesterday. Heath was heading back home, and woo, he was like, it's like 16 tonight and 14. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be brutal.
Yeah, I'm not really happy with this cold snap. I thought I lived in the South, for God's sake, but apparently not.
How wild is it, by the way? I saw a friend of the show, James Hunter, was promoting Phoenix Wrestling in Augusta. By the way, just full disclosure, we're recording on Tuesday, so everything's thrown off a little bit, I'm sure, by people going like, wait, what? He was promoting in Augusta, and he was like, I'm promoting in Augusta, and it's snowing. It was like, it's just like, that's, but anyway, well, here's the thing, the timeline sometimes gets screwed up, but it would not be messed up as much if you were a Patreon member, patreon.com/tappedoutpod, because you do get the shows early. You do get the bonus content and stuff. The show notes, we were talking about those a little bit before we got on the air. Hopefully you guys appreciate it as a PDF now versus the pictures. Makes it a little bit I have heard it's a little more clear to read. If it's not, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, let me know. But again, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. And it's not only where you get the shows early, but there's also exclusive shows like the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight. Now, Myron, I'm not sure if you're aware, but this week what we decided to do, we are dropping that episode on the YouTube channel. So if you're a YouTube watcher and you saw a new show and you're like, hey, it's the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight, what's that? That show is typically exclusive to our Patreon page. But this week we were like, hey, let's show the YouTube viewers what we do over there to maybe try to redirect some traffic over there to see if you're a Georgia indie fan of any kind, you'll see how deep we dive into what happened the week prior and what happens coming up the next week. And join us over there at patreon.com/tappedoutpod.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool, man. Give everybody a little taste of the medicine.
Yeah, I just want to get everybody a little start. Well, look, speaking of this weekend, let's just jump right into it, man. It's a WWE Saturday Night Main Event, round 2 under the new TV deal that they've got. With NBC Universal. It'll be on NBC and on Peacock, of course. Pretty stacked show.
How about that graphic? That Nintendo graphic you showed me? Look like the first wrestling game ever to come out. Man.
That old 8-bit pro wrestling on the Nintendo, Starman and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. They getting me. Next, they getting me. WWE get me in the old Andre the Giant vibes. And yeah, I saw the Retro Ray video where he was talking about the videos in the clamshells. And remember those when you'd have to go and get those big giant rent the videos at the video store, and they had those massive clamshells. This is the kind of retro. This is the kind of just nostalgia it brings back to me.
Yeah, and look, it's hey, we were a little I'm speaking for us both. I was a little confused at one point. I thought these guys were actually wrestling on Saturday Night Main Event, but apparently they're just signing a contract. That is Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. And how about Shawn Michaels is going to be the one moderating this thing?
Sexy boy. Yes, Shawn Michaels apparently having a more active role on the big time, up on the main 2 shows. I don't know about that, man. I really liked him in NXT, but if he's just coming to moderate, I'd like to see what happens. This is a big deal. You got a Hall of Famer up there.
It's setting up a big match at Royal Rumble, which, by the way, make sure, again, if you're subscribing to YouTube or on the Patreon, we'll do a little bit of a deep dive, maybe make some picks and stuff next week.
I love the Royal Rumble. It's my favorite event. I like it more than Mania.
we say that every year. It's the Royal Rumble's the best PLE / pay-per-view, call what you want to, that they have. WrestleMania may be bigger, but it's still not our favorite.
Well, there are two pay-per-views that I have to watch live. Like most of the pay-per-views, we can go to a show, an indie show, and then come home and watch, the recording on Peacock, not the recording, but the replay, or watch it Sunday. But the Rumble, I have to watch live. WrestleMania, I have to watch live because you never know what's going to happen. Saturday night main event, it's not a watch live show. I've got plans Saturday night. I'll talk about those, in my little what I'm going to talk about later. But man, what a stacked card! How about Jey Uso coming down that ramp last night on Raw, and the little kid dressed up like Jey Uso, and they yee 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 dance, and I don't know I can't keep up with the song. But
yeah, I mean, look, Gunther and Jey Uso. Let me ask you, I'm on a sidebar because this isn't on our notes. Fair to say you're a little disappointed in Gunther's run right now?
it's been an odd run. It doesn't have a lot of the regal. The Intercontinental title run was very regal.
Let's put it to you this way: we know the truth. It is what it is. But in a world where they're supposed to be kind of on borderline equal playing fields, his title reign and Cody's reign are like just not even on the same level.
No.
And so the problem with that is his title doesn't even feel near as prestigious.
Well,
that's why you only need one, but that's another conversation.
He gets the clothing. Like Gunther, I don't wear socks either, but those little slippers he wears, it always throws me off. I always wonder if he's going to lose a shoe when he's stomping somebody down. But he's still the man. He's still Gunther.
No. And I'm not knocking Gunther. I'm specific, like his reign. Like it's been a little underwhelming, and I'm hoping this the reason I wanted to go to that, this Jey Uso match / potential feud, this is a changer. This has an opportunity to redeem this reign, because right now up to this point, I love Gunther. I think he's awesome. This title reign specifically is a little underwhelming at this point.
Yeah, and this Jey Uso thing could either be the make or the break for him on this title reign, because day one, I mean, these people want that merch. You see more people dressed up like Jey Uso in the crowd than you do just about anything else. So, still dressed up like Austin 316, when you realize they have a shirt for every city, a shirt for every person in the crowd, Dad 316, Mom 316. But there's more Jey Uso stuff than that. I'm still trying to figure out the transfer window that allows Nia Jax to be on every program. Not complaining. I love it, but I've seen her and Bailey on Friday and Monday. I've seen you're getting the best of stuff they want to set up with this transfer window. Like, here, let's set up a feud here. Let's make it here. We want to string it across both shows. We'll string it across both shows.
Let's just be blunt. They've bastardized the whole like brand thing. It's like it doesn't even matter. Like I remember me saying like, hey, I think the transfer portal is just a lazy excuse to move guys from one to the other, or girls from one to one, whatever. And it's like now it's just like, are you even like, how hard are you trying?
I like it because it allows them to use it as a tool to build storylines on cable TV and on streaming. So if you've got something you really want to promote to the people that don't have streaming services, you can tease them to get them to buy the streaming service.
You could just kill the brand split stupidity and just have where people go anywhere they want. And then you don't even have to do this.
Okay, Nick.
What?
It's wrestling. Okay.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like I get it.
It.
No. You can. There's nothing wrong with it. Enjoy it. I'm just saying, like, the transfer window thing is just like, you don't need it if you just don't have a brand thing.
I still understand it more than I do the transfer portal in college football. And you've explained that to me 8 or 9 times, and the playoff system 8 or 9 times. I'm just happy to see the fact that you can get somebody anywhere, anytime. You're getting Bailey on Raw now. You got Roxanne Perez showing up, sitting in the front row. I'm happy with it. I don't understand where the Sheamus and Braun Breaker match came, but I'm really happy about it. for the Intercontinental Championship, I'd be happy to watch Braun Breaker wrestle anybody. But Sheamus, I think, will be just I don't want to call it what do they use for Sheamus's matches now? What's that term?
Banger.
A banger, because I hate that. I hate that word for some reason. But Braun Breaker will give him everything, and you're guaranteed a great match right here. But I would rather have seen Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but they're not ready for that. Like, I don't like the company, not like we all want it, but they need to make you want it. That's the problem. Like, this is Breaker versus Sheamus this is a big win this is going to be a big win for Breaker because of Sheamus's position in the company in general. And so I think, it's a big win over a former world champion. Be a good move for him. And it's Saturday Night Main Event. I think if you're going to get a Breaker fight, it's like that's a PLE, like that's a Mania, a Rumble, SummerSlam, or something like that. And let's jumping ahead a little bit. Strowman and Fatu, like I think obviously it's a big win for Fatu on that.
Yeah, because if Fatu beats Strowman, he looks like $1 million. Now Strowman's been a big dog lately. He's been getting a lot of runouts and stuff. But Fatu is the guy. If he can beat Strowman,
they had to build Strowman to feed him to Fatu. And that's what I think they're doing, because Fatu's looked like a mad dog for the last month or so, whatever. Since not even been a month, because since Solo disappeared, it just looks like they're playing like he's wild and crazy, can't nobody control him because Solo's gone. And I do think we're probably heading to something like a Fatu versus Braun Breaker or something down the road, because the crazy prediction that I have is there a potential? This is the question. Is the potential there that eventually, long term, the breakout star of the bloodline is actually going to be Jacob Fatu?
Yeah. I love Tama Tonga though. He's a scary looking guy, and his dad's a scary looking guy. But Jacob Fatu is horrifying.
Yeah,
and they can use
the charisma's nuts.
Oh yeah. The thing is, you can use him and Tama Tonga to fill in for their cousin until the time he comes back, and nobody will miss him. I think they'll be fine. I'm just Solo had a great run. I don't know if he's whatever they do when they bring him back as not the tribal chief should be super interesting. But I'm not booking everything yet. I'm just enjoying it. Just enjoying every minute of it. But there's been a lot of crazy controversy, stuff being said behind and stuff being said out front, and people not where they were and people moving around. Who's going to be on? This is Tuesday. Who's going to be on NXT tonight, Nick? Who's going to be commentating?
Oh, it'll be Booker and what's his name, Vic. I always forget his name. But Vic,
I like Vic. Booker is a little too much for me. The green Cholula, Cholula green. Oh.
I mean, look, the controversy you're speaking of is obviously the Corey Graves stuff that went around. He made some comments about getting bumped from Raw and SmackDown, and next thing you know, he's on NXT. Then he's tweeting about things where he's not happy. And look, there's been a lot of conversation in this, and I was like, it's just kind of interesting that I think, I heard some other, we like some other podcast people, we were all talking and stuff, and I think it's this sounds like something that was probably like legit, like real, and creative got a hold of it and was like, we can take this and make this a dream. Look, I understand Corey Graves put out a comment that he just maybe was told that he just wasn't famous enough for SmackDown and Raw. And the problem is, I got some bad news for Corey Graves. I love Corey Graves on commentary.
Oh, yeah.
However, when WWE has an opportunity to have Pat McAfee, people like to be like, it's this way in college football. Like, Pat suffers the same issue in college football that he does in wrestling. Pat McAfee's a brand who draws eyes to the product that don't watch. Corey, love him to death, think he's an amazing announcer. I don't think a single person watches Raw, SmackDown, NXT because Corey Graves is the announcer.
No.
Corey Graves enhances a product that is drawing eyes.
Yes.
Pat draws eyes. So therefore, that's I think that. Now, I understand also his take on being upset about it. It makes total sense. I'm not saying he was wrong about making the complaint. But when all of this shuffles around, eventually the door that opens up, Corey Graves wants to wrestle. He has rehabbed, and he has rehabbed his body to get where he could wrestle again.
He's cleared. I just double-checked before we started the show.
Yep.
Corey Graves is cleared.
Oh,
What
yeah.
better comeback story than wrestler versus outsider? What greater comeback story than you bumped me off my spot? Because he's bumped him off that spot before, Nick.
Sure.
I mean, that's happened. This happens. This is not something that we haven't seen before. You know, and then you had Joe Testatori to come in and take somebody's spot.
Well, so the irony is I will say this. If you were playing the game, Pat's the one taking Corey's job, not anybody else. Because Joe and Wade Barrett, you know, they've worked together. That's why they did the transition. So if you notice, it was Michael Cole and Corey Graves together when Pat's gone. And then when they cycle through and they went to the Raw thing, you know what I mean? That's so it's, I think the Joe thing is like, hey, let's keep him with Wade Barrett because he's comfortable with Wade Barrett. I don't know that Corey likes to do a lot of stuff off the cuff and stuff. Cole can react because he's a true professional in that sense of the word. I think Joe, being still kind of new to the game, it might be a little bumpier. So that, like, we've already got him used to Wade Barrett. Let's just leave him be there and keep him comfortable on SmackDown.
Yeah.
All that said, if you were disappointed and you were mad about somebody taking your job and all of that kind of stuff, what better to smooth that all over and go, Corey, we get it. There's two levels I want to go because there's one I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna pause that. I'm gonna jump to the point that, you know, I think it was Booker. No, it wasn't Booker T. There was somebody else that made the comment. Oh, Bully Ray. This is who made this comment. I had to think about it for a second. He's like, Corey, you get paid to be an announcer for WWE. They don't promise you're the Raw one. They don't promise you're the NXT one. They don't promise you're the SmackDown. They promised you, they hired you to be a commentator. Wherever they put you, that's where you do the best that you can. I get it. Because my thing was, I understand the frustrations, but what if the goal was, hey, we want to put you in on NXT to help build that brand? We think we need you to. Myron, you just sit there and said, you're not a big fan of Booker T. What if the goal was eventually for it to be Victor Joseph and Corey Graves, and they could weed Booker T off?
I mean, if they're gonna negotiate a lower salary with him, I'd be pissed, you know, if I was him. But if they're not,
his contract's his contract.
Man? I would sit in Orlando and only travel once a month or however.
By the way, I think he lives in Orlando. I think so.
With his beautiful wife. And
so, now I don't know that, to be fair. I don't know that. I just think that. So,
well, you could stay in the same place most of the time. Booker's busy with his school. He's got an ID school now, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that might be like the eventual plan is like, hey, we're going to phase him off.
Or what if you're just the guy that has to fill in when somebody goes somewhere? What if you're the third man on every show?
Right.
There's a job to that. He's not the most unsatisfied employee right now.
Well, hold on. I want to come back.
We'll get to that.
I'm coming back.
But he's still not the most unsatisfied employee.
No. But so I want to also get into, if you're trying to smooth all that over with Corey, a heck of a way to smooth that over is like, hey, Corey, we know you want to wrestle. What if we got you a match for WrestleMania? And he'd be like, wait, what? Like, not only do I get to wrestle, I get to WrestleMania. All right, well, what bum are you rolling out there for me to wrestle? Well, what if we get Pat to get into the ring with you? Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but that would be cool because Pat's done it. We know Pat can perform in the ring. He's pulled it off before.
Good. Pat can perform in the ring. I wonder how much Corey has been training because Pat is going to need a little bit. Not a lot of help, but just a little bit of help. Don't you think? just from a pay-per-view level match, a WrestleMania level match. I think
I
he would
mean,
need
he's
just
had
a
a
little
mania.
bit of help.
He's done a mania thing. So I mean, it's
With
what I'm
who?
saying.
I can't remember.
Well, he did the NXT thing was, but he got in there eventually, and he was messing around with old Vince back when it happened. He got stunnered by Austin. I'm just saying, and he wrestled. Wasn't it Theory? He wrestled.
I think so.
Yeah. So I mean, come on. I mean, my point being is like Pat will deliver because you're not going to ask him to do a million things. You're going to keep it simple.
Don't do any more dives.
I mean, look. I mean, Corey's probably not going to do anything crazy either with his injuries. He'll probably do some basic stuff. So, but now here's the thing:
These
Corey
are concussions mainly. You know, it's like
so you're going to be safe. Yeah, they'll be safe. So my whole thing is, I think, look, is this something that happened that they were like, hey, we can make a little money on this, we can make everybody happy? Yeah, I think it's pretty doable and pretty.
Hey,
I mean,
social media is the best way to promote stuff because it goes through the wrestling, the wrestling community like castor oil through a widow woman. If somebody says I'm not happy, or somebody says somebody's not happy, I mean, look at rumors. Corey
I go
Graves
ahead
isn't
to.
happy.
Corey Graves does not live in Orlando. I just paused in my brain and thought of I know why, because he was spotted in the Orlando airport when he got sent home, and they were like, make sure, the story now coming out is, did they say, make sure you're seen in the Orlando airport leaving Orlando? Because that adds credibility to the whole, like, the drama, and you got sent home. Well, if you're seen in the Orlando airport leaving, you got sent home. So, but look, I don't know what the deal with NXT was, like, why he was so angry about it, because I think there's a massive future there, but
well, I think that's the last place he wrestled was NXT. He also, when he got injured, the first place he did commentary was NXT. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to go back to his roots. I don't know the answer to that. But there's so much going to be going on with the TNA thing. Their lead announcer stepping down. Their people leaving, and now you've got a farm system all of a sudden. What is up with this? What do you think on all of this?
The TNA WWE deal?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, the way I think the whole system's going to work, we talked about NXT, we've talked about the ID, we've talked about the Evolve, we've talked about TNA. I mean, I think it's a pretty cool, system when you think about it. And I know the designations have changed. Bully Ray addressed this a little bit on Busted Open the other day, where he was like, basically, he thinks the TNA is the final piece of a puzzle, maybe, for basically saying, we got a farm system. We're going to use it. We're going to treat it like baseball. NXT, WWE obviously is in the major leagues. If you're on those two, Raw or SmackDown. NXT is your AAA. TNA can become your AA, and we'll talk about that in a second because I've said that. Evolve and ID are your A-ball. Well, because also, if they're going to let these guys work out on the indies, these ID people and the Evolve people and stuff, it's the indies. It's the indies and the WWE ID program / the Evolve. I think that ultimately is going to be their A-ball. And then you can have guys just move around as you need them. And somebody actually thought, I was like, I don't think they're going to buy TNA. I've changed my tune on that. Because I can give you 20 million reasons why I don't think they're going to buy it. And that was because MLW sued them and won, like, for monopoly. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, if I had somebody that I brought in through my ID program and I had invested some money in, okay? And my next step was, let's just keep them on the indies. But I'm working and they get booked on a GCW show and break their leg in 2 places. Or I could get them to go to TNA and work with safe wrestlers who've been wrestling.
I don't know if that was fair. I don't think that was anyway, we'll get to that later.
But wouldn't you want to take people you've spent money on and try to get, if you think they're ready for the next step, wouldn't your next step rather be TNA? If they've got a gap between Indie and NXT, wouldn't TNA be something where they could finish up and develop more, something they could control without controlling it?
I just think they're going to working together, and it's a placeholder to put for
Well,
people to sit.
We're gonna see some Royal Rumble faces off that TNA roster.
Let me ask you. We'll get to that next week.
My
Let's put a cap in there.
My WrestleCade picks are going to be all at that Royal Rumble, folks.
Let's put a pin in that for next week, because I think there's not there's some validity to that, and there's some that I don't think so at all.
And he appears. Is that how that song
probably goes? Maybe. But by the way, we'll get to TNA in a minute, like the deep dive as far as that goes, about that young man, because I don't know if you read something he said after winning the title that I thought was pretty interesting. But anyway, back to the point is WWE ID, that's your A-ball, TNA AA, NXT AAA, because I think you're going to see the ID guys are people that they're like NIL's Performance Center. By the way, have you heard the latest rumor? The PC, they were like, there's some talk about maybe shutting it down. Like, it's super expensive, and if you're going to have the ID program, is it easier to do that way? By the way, I totally think it's BS. I don't think it's accurate.
They're not going to shut the Performance Center down with the NIL deal. With the NIL business in place, you can't shut the Performance Center down, because you take a bunch of people that are gymnasts and swimmers or volleyball players, and you can't stick them out on the indies. You can't take athletes that have never wrestled a day in their lives and put them, in a car with 4 other guys and riding around. They don't know the moves. They don't know. They've not been to school.
The only validity that there may be to that is I have heard that the one that they have in Vegas, they've contemplated merging it into one facility. Because if you took NXT on the road and you closed the PC and you merged it into that UFCville facility out in Las Vegas, that they've already got the building. Because they've already got the trainers there, they've already got the doctors there, they've already got, all that stuff. If you put all that stuff in one building, you could pull it off. I don't think it's happening, but it could be done. I don't think it's an absurd idea.
Yeah,
it's not absurd.
I just don't think it would be a good idea.
There's they would still have a performance center. We're just saying they don't need that performance center anymore. My thing is if NXT's staying in Orlando, then it just makes sense to keep it there. I would say maybe share some of that, but anyway. Well, yeah. So, but we'll see. I just think I think that the term the NIL deal is a little like basically they're paying kids while they're in college, and then when the kid's out of college, they come work for WWE. Like they're not an NIL kid anymore once they're there. Then they're just under contract. But so they're just paying them to get them through because.
But they're not paying them in college to go out there and work the indie circuits. They're staying in college with their athletic thing. But when they get out of college, they've not learned moves. They've not learned holds. They've not,
Well, the beauty is they get to use the facilities while they're in college, so they can come if they choose to. So, like in the summer, they can come and stay there. That's why they have those dorms there and all that kind of stuff. They stay there. Anyway, neither here nor there. But yeah, anyway, the logic of it being, I think TNA becomes a cog that they can use, and we're gonna see why here in a minute. Big pay-per-view happens this past weekend. TNA Genesis. Lots of cool stuff happened. Obviously, we don't go match by match and stuff. We're only going to discuss the stuff that's pertinent. Tessa Blanchard defeated Jordynne Grace, and clearly, like videos that have surfaced, from backstage at TNA, it's essentially it was her swan song, and everybody was telling her goodbye and giving her the hugs, and even put a cake in her face and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool for her to get her moment. But I think this is the first step of us seeing, hey, we can let her stay in TNA. She can be signed by TNA. We can give her some exposure on TV. We can see if she clicks with our audience. And if she does, well, so here's the thing. This is a dangerous thing for TNA. I understand. They have to be willing to basically, here's the thing. Famous guy once said, know your role and shut your mouth. Like that's what TNA is going to have to do. And look, I'm sure, Triple H is not going to be such an ass about it. But they are going to learn. Like, listen, if we borrow one of your talents and we get a good reception and we like what we see, when their contract's up, they're probably gone.
Yeah, but I think they're probably going to have to take care of TNA to make this deal work. And I'm sure there's stuff that they can make it work with. And I really am stoked at the idea of AJ Styles coming back to work on a TNA show.
Bold prediction from Nick. I don't know that you're ever going to see Raw and SmackDown people on TNA. I've just slowly changed my tune, and I'm like, I don't think it's even. I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I really do. I 100%. I agree with you. Seeing AJ Styles wrestle for a TNA championship would be awesome. It really would. I'm not saying somebody from TNA couldn't come to WWE to wrestle AJ Styles, but I don't think you're going to see AJ Styles on Access TV, wrestling. That's just my take, because I don't think anybody in their right mind at the WWE/TKO WWE headquarters sees that as an equal trade.
No. I can't wait to see what the buy rates are going to be on that pay-per-view if they're released, because they had a good card. I was really impressed to see actually the people that are going to be leaving. With Josh Alexander potentially leaving, I thought that was cool. I think if he reunites with Ethan Page in NXT, that'll be awesome. If we look at this card, what just jumped off the page at you?
I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. I mean, I like TNA. I like what they're doing. I don't know that anything like just jumped off the page and was like, how, that it just drew me in. Honestly, I mean, it's, I thought, look, I was obviously surprised. Joe Hendry defeating Nick Nemeth, for that title. That was kind of surprising. I like the JBL's involvement. I don't know if I'd call it much more than that. Kind of protect. It's not even that. It's, it is what it is.
He's APA security, man. Remember?
Yeah. I mean, JBL, clotheslining Kazarian. By the way, how odd was it? This is literally a sidebar on a sidebar. Cool. Kazarian was like kind of teased, like, well, I know where you're going to be on Monday, because he was on Raw. JBL was, and he's like, maybe that, I was like, oh, there you go. Not bad at all. But Joe Hendry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I believe in Joe Hendry. Man's got charisma. Man was super nice. I met him at WrestleCade. It was our little friend Erica's birthday. He recorded her a birthday video for no charge. I bought my 8x10. I bought my photograph with him. And he recorded the video at no charge. Super nice guy. He's got charisma in the ring. People fall in love with him. Just the YouTube and the Reels stuff that came out from his WWE appearance on NXT were insane. Can you imagine what the Royal Rumble pop's going to be when he comes out next?
I do think he's potentially one of the surprises.
He's their champion. He's got to come now. It'd be like TNA champion Joe Hendry.
All right,
let him get in there.
Let's spoil some content for next week. I'll tell you where I was going. I was going to try to save it. The men's roster's so deep with stars. Last year we didn't get a ton of it, remember? Because they're so loaded on their men's stars on even just the two brands and a couple of ones from the I don't know that the men's division has as much place, for something like that. You might get Joe Hendry. There's another one that I'm still sticking by. I think's going to happen. I've heard it very much could probably happen at this point. The women's, now I think it's a free for all, because you could throw one in there and it would be a huge surprise. I know they're deep at the women's roster too, but I don't think there's anybody that if you don't, there's quite a few that if you were like, this person's not in the Rumble, you'd be like, I get it. Like, I understand.
There's going to be a heavy TNA footprint in the Rumble. It's going to be Ethan Page, who's now in NXT. It's going to be Jordan Grace. We're probably going to see Masha Slamovich. Probably going to see Roxanne Perez, who's not TNA, but she's on NXT and she's right there, ready to go. So
like I said, I was counting. Like I don't count anybody in NXT as a surprise per se at this point because they're trying to build that third brand up. But
it was a good book on this card. Now that we keep going through it.
So all right, let's get into the GCW conversation. GCW Hammerstein Ballroom. By the way, congrats to them. They sold. Look, they ranked right up there with what AEW pulled off in that building. And Brett Lauderdale grabbing the mic and basically saying, "Look, I don't have a billionaire backing me, backing me. It's just like if we don't succeed, it's a huge deal if they don't make money because they're. Let me ask you this: Is GCW the top indie in the country right now?
I don't see how it couldn't be. I mean, seriously, they draw everywhere they go. They have the biggest talent coming in, signed talent, AEW talent, TNA talent coming in. I don't see how they're not the biggest indie in the country. Who else is in this? Evolve's gone.
Oh yeah. I think the conversation becomes more because it's not just an attendance thing. It's they've got the Triller deal and Look, and I get it. We joke about exposure bucks, but from an exposure standpoint,
yes,
they're like the promotion. And look, Matt Cardona's of the world are kind of the ones that help build that, as well. I know what we don't particularly love deathmatch wrestling in that sense of the word, but they built Nick Gage up. He's a big part of that building that company.
Bank addicted drug robber, according to Jim Cornette. I could care less for that whole Nick Gage type thing and all those other guys and that stuff. I have friends that do it and I respect what they do, but it's not for me. It's always a little on the edge. It's always a little hardcore. We had that major injury. I didn't see how it happened. I'm not going to watch it because those kind of things ick me,
She dove. She landed wrong. She broke her leg.
Yeah.
It's pretty cut and dry. I mean, yeah. And I mean, you can see it on the video. It's like, oh, that didn't end well.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
The two other things. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you saw it, you kind of go like, okay, that makes sense. The other two big things on the show, I want to bring one attention. We're going to end with the PCO. We're going to end with PCO instead of start with it.
That sounds like a disease.
Tom Pestock, the artist formerly known as Baron Corbin, was on this show. And a lot of people were surprised, and I had a back and forth with a guy, and we were talking about, they were surprised that he took the fall to Josh Barnett. They're like, why would he do that? And I said, well, there's two things. I think one, what I think this is showing is that he just told the indie world and anybody that's willing to pay, he'll play ball. Like, it's not like I got to go in there. Hey, I got to win. I'm a WWE guy. I want to win. He's cool. Like, hey, and by the way, every rumor that I hear is like he's probably going back sooner than later. So if you're out there on the indies, play ball with him, and if you want to use him and bring him in and kind of go from there.
I mean, he's an indie draw. He's not a WWE draw, in my opinion. He's not going to be he never was a popular WWE guy, but guys like that translate real well to indie wrestling. It's just the way it is. He also made some really good. If you want to look at a guy that was a company man and a guy that would go out and work on the indies for you, his comments on Ray Phoenix and those other people, those are pretty company man comments. You got a contract, you work it out. And as I said earlier, a lot of times on the internet, these people in the wrestling fan community expect wrestling contracts to be, like, okay, handshake deals. And they're getting to the point, they're like NFL contracts where you have to do you've got appearances and all this stuff, or you've got all these things you have to do, and people expect you just to be able to walk away from it. And he's right. You have to honor a contract signed. And so he's going to say things like this. And I think this guy who's been to the show might need to be listened to.
Well, it's always going to come back down to the thing. We discussed this a couple of weeks ago. The only thing I disagree with that is you did sign a contract, but if the guy's just going to like have you sit at home and pay you and not do anything, I get the complaining part. Like, I understand, like, hey, if you're not going to use me, let me go. If you're going to use me and put me on TV, then I'm in that same line of, okay, it doesn't matter if he's beating you. If he's using you on TV, that's what the contract says. Like, hey, you're going to perform, you got a contract, fulfill it, and then you can go on your way. I just don't like the part of like, hey, sit at home, draw your check. Because in wrestling, we're all fickle. We've all moved on from a wrestler that we loved when we didn't see him for 6 months. Like, we've all been like, oh, yeah, that guy. He was look, we do it on the indies. Think about how many times you bounce from one wrestler as your favorite wrestler to the next. Just because you don't see him for a while.
Yeah.
Happens. But anyway. But I tell you,
out of mind.
I tell you a guy that was not out of sight and out of mind, and that was PCO. So a lot of stuff is out here about, like, is this stuff, like, was it part of a plan? Was it not? Everything's being pointed out that it was not. He is your digital media champion.
He was your digital media champion.
The night of the GCW, right? He was.
That title was vacant.
When he came out, he was the champion. They put him over. They had him win the Battle Royal, and he basically takes a sledgehammer to the title, bashes it up. Yes, folks, it was a replica. It was not the actual real thing.
That is why I don't understand why a promotion lets their talent take their belt home. I will never understand that. Unless you have a belt that's going to be defended on other shows specifically, I don't understand why talent takes their belt home. I never have been able to take home tools from a job I did that the company owns. Now, him having a replica that to use on the indies, that's cool. But the main belt, had he had the main belt and smashed it up like that, that would be a big deal.
A company the size of that, I mean, the replica thing makes sense or whatever, but WWE ain't worried about it because you're paying for that thing out of your last couple checks if you bust it up, so they ain't worried about it. But again, he bashes the thing. Then it's like, hey, Tommy Dreamer has made comments about, like, it's just an unfortunate thing. He's gone now. It's just that simple.
Well, so his contract had expired, and they were just going to let him work out the rest of his storyline.
He was supposed to drop it this weekend.
Yeah.
And
they didn't put him on the show.
He wasn't. Look, I get it. I mean, here's my take. Here's my PCO take for defending PCO. Why wouldn't you just have him lose it on the pay-per-view?
He was the champion.
Yeah, no, that's my point. Why would you not just have him lose that title on the pay-per-view on his way out the door?
I mean, when you think about it, they don't have like 6, 8, 10 belts they need to defend on every pay-per-view like WWE, so that the WWE has to split them up and work them in. How many total belts they got? I don't know, but they can't have that many. So they figure it out. They should have been able to fit that up, especially since it was his basically last going away pay-per-view. They should have fit him on the here is Myron booking, which, and I'm gonna give you the they should have, you deserve it internet wrestling fan thing. I would think that him being a veteran, they would put him on, let him do his bit, walk away, just like they did Jordan Grace. Now, didn't he claim he was the biggest merch seller they had and da-da-da?
Look, I'm not saying he wasn't delusional in some forms or fashion. My defense of him is like, if he's your digital media championship, with all due respect to the people that were on that card, I looked at that card and was like, yeah, I could have taken that match out and put them in. A digital tie, even if it was going to be a quick win.
Maybe it was something we didn't know about. Maybe there was a reason you and I, as professional wrestling podcasters, did not know about.
There's always a reason, and I get it. That's what I'm saying. But
you know, there are some states that would not have cleared him to wrestle. athletic commission would not have cleared him to wrestle because he only had one eye?
Maybe that's it. Maybe they wouldn't clear him in the state wherever the pay-per-view was. Who knows? Maybe that's a pitch. I don't know. Could be. We'll see. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. But a lot of people don't think the commission matters. That's a whole other story in itself that, but that's, maybe that story, Myron, we discussed it a little bit. Yeah, maybe that one needs to be hidden behind the paywall at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. That's right, man. You could have got this show early. You could have got the Tapped In show early. You could have got the bonus content. You could have got the show notes. You could have got all of that stuff extra and more. Just simply signing up at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. But look, we get it. Hey, we understand that a lot of people are still YouTube watchers, and they are the tappedoutpod.com. That's where the YouTube channel is. I was telling a guy, I was at a show last night, and the guy was like, "Oh, you do a podcast?" And I had my zip on because it was cold in the building. Unzip, opened it up. He goes, "Oh, cool." He looked it up, and I was like, "Hey, if you're trying to find this dude, just type tappedoutpod.com. It'll come up. It'll like."
Hey, did you have on shorts?
No, I did not.
You had on long pants. It has got the Nick McDaniel wearing long pants season. Now, it's not got to AJ Styles wearing long pants season.
Which is bananas. He was working out, but that's a different story. That's probably a Patreon. Too. I had a conversation about that last night as well.
Oh, I got to hear that. Yeah. I got to hear that conversation.
But anyway, man, anything else before we get out of here?
I'm going to go to it. Me and you're going to a national show this weekend because based on this poster, we got WWE ID talent we was talking about. We got NWA sign talent. Look at that.
Myron, there's an NWA world champion. It's not signed talent. He is the world
NWA
champion.
World Champion is wrestling Alexander Lev, our local wrestler, and somebody I think the world of, great kid, wrestling at Pro Wrestling Aggression in Royston. Now, if you are in the sound of my voice and you want to see 3 NWA talent, including the NWA champion, if you want to see Jackson Drake, the WEID prospect, and a ton of other incredibly wrestling talent, I would suggest you get down to the Royston Dome. Where did we see AE? Where did we see old AJ Styles at? Where was that picture taken?
There.
At the Royston Dome. Mm-hmm. So, Royston Dome, Saturday, January 25th, 305 Cherry Street, Royston, Georgia. The doors open at 7 and the bell time is at 8. Okay? Pro Wrestling Aggression, Facebook.com/PWA Aggression. the PW Aggression. I didn't prepare for that adequately, but I would go check this out, folks. Because I mean, it's like getting to go see an NWA show with WEID talent on it. I am so excited about this. It's their first show. I want to get 100% behind these people.
Yeah. I mean, look, we'll have to see how the weather's holding up come Saturday. That's always, this time of year, it's either, hey, it could be 70 degrees or it could be 16, apparently. That's, we're somewhere in between there.
If I have to, I'm going to get me a hotel in Royston and just spend the whole weekend up there. I guess I'll go to the Ty Cobb Museum, too. Also, there's a Ty Cobb Museum up there if you love baseball, people.
Listen, I do suggest bringing a hoodie. Or pulling a coat or something. That's all. I'll leave it. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because we haven't seen the temperature yet. But yeah, we'll be there. That'll be where we're at this weekend, and that's probably it this weekend. I loaded down heavy this past weekend, so I think I'm gonna take a light schedule this coming up weekend when you're listening to this, and then so I'll probably that might be the only show I make it to this week. So.
That's the only show I'm planning on going to this weekend because it's like that's a big show. I want to give all my attention to that. The next Wednesday is the Royal Rumble, my favorite pay-per-view of the year. So, folks, get them in. Let us know what's going on. If you see an event in the area that we don't know about, let us know. We love you. We need you. And we look forward to talking to you at shows. We look forward to getting feedback on this. Like and subscribe. We're going to get Nick one of those big play buttons. That's our goal.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. But, well, man, is that it for you, buddy?
That's it.
What's the old saying, man? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
Time to tap out.